Saving the Redwoods. From a tiny seedling. Would you believe that a giant tree could grow from this little seedling? It's true. California is home to some of the world's tallest and biggest trees. Yet, these towering trees begin from seeds no bigger than the ones you find inside a tornado. A trip along the California coast will bring you to the tallest tree in the world. At 367 feet tall, the California Redwood, found near Orange, California, stands taller than the Statue of Liberty. Travel inland to Sequoia National Park, and you'll see the biggest living thing on Earth. The General Sherman, a giant sequoia, weighs about 2,756 tons. You could build 8 five-story homes with the wood from this tree. Once, the magnificent forests where these trees live were in danger of being completely destroyed. It takes a very long time for these trees to grow so tall. That's why these forests are called old-growth forests. An old-growth forest is one that has been able to grow and age naturally without being destroyed or changed by a major fire, by a severe storm, or by people. Because redwoods are so strong, fires and storms usually don't destroy or severely damage redwood forests. When an old-growth forest is cut down, it takes hundreds of years to replace it. The good news is that giant trees are now protected in parks such as Redwood, Sequoia, Yosemite, and Big Tree National Park. Redwoods and Sequoias. California redwoods and giant sequoias both belong to the redwood family, but there are some big differences between the two kinds of trees. You'll find California redwoods, also called coast redwoods, along the coast of Northern California and Southern Oregon. You'll have to look high up in the Sierra Nevada, 150 miles away from the ocean, to find the giant sequoias. California redwoods grow taller than giant sequoias. Giant sequoias, also called Sierra redwoods, grow thicker and heavier. Both of these kinds of trees can live a long time, but giant sequoias can live about 1,000 years longer than California redwoods. A walk in the woods. What does it take to grow a California redwood? Seeds, of course, but you also need some special conditions that can be found only in certain parts of California. The moderate climate of the Northern California coast is perfect for redwood trees. California redwood roots are long but shallow. The roots have to be moist at all times for the trees to survive. The cool, damp air of the Pacific coast is just what the redwoods need. So is the more than 100 inches of rain that fall in the area each year. But all that rain washes away important nutrients from the soil. So the redwoods also need help from the dead trees that decay around them. When old-growth trees are removed by logging, it's not only the cut-down trees that are hurt. The other trees in the forest need these old trees to die and decay, or else they suffer too. The canopy is the highest part of the forest, where the tops of the tallest trees are. The trees that reach the canopy get full sunlight. In the understory, the layer above the forest floor, you'll find plants, shrubs, and young trees. Because they live in the shadow of the big trees, the plants of the understory have to be able to survive without a lot of sunlight. On the forest floor, dead and decaying trees, leaves, and needles help keep the soil moist and rich. Ferns, mosses, and mushrooms grow in this damp environment. Redwoods are named for the color of their bark. California redwoods don't die of old age. They grow more slowly as they age, but they don't get weaker. They die from damage by beetles, fungi, bad storms or fires, or from being cut down by people. Giant sequoias can live more than 3,000 years. Life in the trees. When you walk through a redwood forest, you'll see a lot more than big trees. These forests are home to creatures big and small, from the large black bear to the tiny banana slug. Some of the animals that depend on the redwood forest are endangered. The numbers of these animals are so small that if they aren't protected, they may completely disappear from the planet. As forests are cut down, these animals lose their homes and possibly their lives. Animals of the redwoods. The moist forest floor is the perfect place for insects. You'll also find frogs, newts, and salamanders at this level. The marbled murrelet is a small endangered seabird. Scientists believe it nests only in the canopies of old-growth forests. It travels out to the ocean to find food. The bald eagle, the northern spotted owl, and the American peregrine falcon are other endangered or threatened birds of the redwood forests. Cougars are the largest meat eaters in the redwood forest. We know little about the ways of life of these cats because they like to stay in hidden areas. Listening to the trees. Scientists know that it's important to listen to the trees, to pay close attention to them. By studying the forest, scientists get a good look at how forests are growing and changing. Scientists can tell whether the plants, trees, and animals in the forest are doing well or whether they are in danger of disappearing. They try to measure how the things that people do affect the forests. Wildlife experts keep their eyes on the endangered animals of the forest. Other scientists watch how logging affects the water flow in the forest. Fisheries help keep the rivers and streams full of fish. The scientists work together to tell people about the importance of these ancient forests. A cool school. Your classroom probably has walls, windows, desks, and a roof. But thousands of California students have a classroom with campfires, sleeping bags, and giant trees. For the past 30 years, California students have gone to outdoor schools run by Redwoods National Park and the California State Parks. In these schools, forest rangers help students explore the forest and learn about the many plants and animals living there. Students live in cabins in the park. They form away teams that explore the forest. They observe wildlife in the forest and write down notes. Then they share with classmates what they've learned. The rangers hope these students will always remember what they've learned in the outdoor schools. They want everyone to know how important it is to protect these special forests. A timeless forest. Relatives of the redwoods grew in many parts of the world millions of years ago. Scientists believe that the weather conditions caused by the last ice age changed the range of the redwoods. Now they are only found in a narrow strip along the California and Oregon coasts. American Indian tribes such as the Yurok have lived among the redwoods for thousands of years. The Yurok traveled by wooden canoes along streams and rivers in the forest. They always made canoes of redwood, but they used trees that had been knocked over in storms. The sturdy canoes they built lasted for many years. Over the years, more people moved into the area of the redwood forests. They didn't always treat the trees with the respect that the Yuroks did. They cut tunnels through the trees for people to drive through. Some even opened up businesses in the trees. This treatment hurt the trees, and many of them are no longer standing. The tiny redwood seed doesn't have a great chance of surviving. Only 1 in 1 million will grow into a mature tree. The California redwood is the fastest growing cone-bearing tree in North America. The thick bark and high-growing leaves of the redwood make it almost fireproof. Sequoias bloom in late winter, sprinkling the snow with yellow pollen. The Monos tribe believed that the big trees of California were sacred. They thought that bad luck would come to anyone who cut down a big tree. They also believed that the owl was the guardian of these trees. They called the trees wo now after the hoot of an owl. Timber. The first European settlers were probably amazed by the giant redwoods, just as visitors to the forest are today. But they also saw a land that they couldn't farm. The large trees and the mountainous land discouraged the Europeans from farming. Few settlers lived in or near the forest until the middle of the 1800s. Then the California gold rush began. As miners moved to California to search for gold, hoping to strike it rich, business was booming. Everyone needed homes and supplies. People looked at the giant forests and saw enough wood to build homes for everyone. Soon, lumber mills sprang up all along the Pacific coast. In these early days, loggers shipped their lumber on ships headed for San Francisco. Many of the buildings in San Francisco were built with redwood. Some ships carried wood to other parts of the world. By 1914, the Northwestern Pacific Railroad was carrying redwood lumber across the country. Logging was big business. The logging industry and other businesses didn't see the importance of the forest for anything except lumber. Whole forests were clear-cut or completely cut down. This led to floods and to land being washed away. We still live with the damage that clear-cutting caused. The trees that were cut down were hundreds of years old. Even if new seeds are planted at the same time that trees are taken, it requires hundreds of years to rebuild a forest. Save Our Trees. The Save the Redwoods League was formed in 1918. The organizers knew that if they didn't do something, the redwood forests would be completely gone in a few years. They used donations to buy forests. Then they created protected parks around the forests. In 1968, the United States Congress combined these parks into Redwood National Park. Today, more than 160,000 acres of redwood forest are protected on the California coast. In 1973, the Forest Practice Act was passed. It was a set of rules about how to take care of forests on private land. The most recent preserve or protected area was created in 1999. Known as Headwaters Forest Preserve, it has 7,500 acres of protected forest. Redwood logging and milling continue. Redwood forests are planted on private land that is zoned or set aside for commercial use. The logging industry no longer clear-cuts forests. Once the trees are harvested, workers plant new ones. Still standing. Today, redwood trees stand strong in California. They've survived an ice age, storms, earthquakes, fires, and logging. Now they're protected in state and national parks. We no longer have to worry that all of the old-growth redwoods will be clear-cut. People have worked to balance the needs of industry with the needs of the many animals and plants that make their homes in redwood forests. California's redwoods are one of the state's oldest and most valuable resources. It's important to make sure they stay strong.